okay, that's fine. That doesn't necessarily change attendees up to his father's office on the 26th floor. Now, he's not saying he knows that it happened, and I think that you would be crazy to simply believe anything that Steve Bannon says without checking into it. But if that is actually the case, if there is evidence that that happened, that means that everything that the Trump family has said in the wake of the initial news about that meeting was entirely untrue, and that puts them in a totally new area of legal jeopardy. The Trump Tower meeting is already absolutely terrible for them, everything about it. But if Trump has been lying this entire time about, it was just, they didn't have anything, we were kind of pissed about it, we rushed them out the door. If they brought them up to Trump himself to meet about that, I don't know what happens from this point on after that.
Okay, so let's break down a couple of really important parts of that. Steve Bannon now says, look, man, I didn't have anything to do with the Russians, so that's their business, not my business. He said, I'm not going to get a lawyer, I'm not going to go on national TV, presumably during investigations. Okay, one, with that quote alone, he's probably wrong, because any investigator in their right mind would say, why do you think they went up to the 26th floor to meet Donald Trump? What do you know that we don't know? We'd certainly like to know if Donald Trump actually did meet personally with the Russian representatives. And now that leads to point number two, which is, this is not being talked about enough. That in that meeting, the lawyer that they talked to, the Trump campaign talked to, including, by the way, Jared Kushner, wanted to talk about the Magnitsky Act, and that it was clamping down on Russian oligarchs.
Yeah.
Okay? And so the thing that the Putin and his oligarchs cared most about was that law. So that was not a minor meeting. That was the major meeting. What is the trade? You get rid of that act, which is blocking our bank accounts, and we help you win the election. So anyone involved in that meeting, that's already toxic. It's nuclear. And if Trump's involved, that's even worse, obviously. But it was about the Prevazon case. The Prevazon case is also about the Russian oligarchs. They had him. You know who had him? Preet Bharara, the U.S. attorney in New York. You know what happened? Remember when Trump fired him? And then they settled it for a comically low number
$6 million.
right afterwards. So it's the corruption, it's the collusion. The collusion is minor. As Bannon himself says here, as John will review the quotes, it's the money laundering. What did I tell you from day one? I told you it was the money laundering. The Russians have put in hundreds of millions of dollars into real estate in New York and Florida to launder money. That's what the issue is. Finally, in regards to the importance of those quotes that we began with, why is Bannon saying it in the first place? Because, okay, sure, they had a rift at the White House, but publicly he's been generally supporting Trump. Breitbart, which he runs, has been saying the investigation is wrong-headed and it should be ended, etc. So why is Bannon saying this stuff to a reporter? It's because Bannon knows what we don't know, which is that Trump definitely did it. Bannon was there. I'm sure that he tried to stay away, and hence why he's throwing everybody else under the bus and didn't want anything to do with the Russians. But having been there, having been in those rooms, right or wrong, I don't know what evidence he has, but it's obvious from his quotes that Bannon thinks they did it. I don't want any part of it. I'm throwing them under the bus, so you know that I didn't do it.
Yeah, and important to bear in mind that while it looks like Wolf had multiple interviews and meetings with Bannon, many of them were before his rift, before he left the White House.
That's very important. Because why is he telling Wolf all this stuff, trying to distance himself from Trump, when at the time he's still Trump's chief strategist? Because he knows they did it! It is the money laundering!
Okay, let's run through a couple more quotes. On that same vein, actually, Steve Bannon quoted in the book, which is forthcoming, saying, "This is all about money laundering. Mueller chose senior prosecutor Andrew Weissman first, and he is a money laundering guy. Their path to fucking Trump goes right through Paul Manafort, Don Jr., and Jared Kushner. It's as plain as a hair on your face. The Kushner shit is greasy. They're going to go right through that. They're going to roll those two guys up and say, play me or trade me. And then I hope that the president's son saw this today. They're going to crack Don Jr. like an egg on national TV, adding that the White House should reconsider its apparent lack of concern over the Mueller investigation, saying they're sitting on a beach trying to stop a Category 5.
See, that's part of the reason why he's not on the beach anymore. And he just said, hey, look at those idiots on the beach. He already knows a Category 5 is coming. That's why he got the hell out of Dodge. So on whether it was money laundering or not, we have admissions. This is why people say, like, Jake, how are you so sure that he did a deal with the Russians? His two sons have already admitted that the Russians have funneled all this money to him. Eric Trump said to a golfing reporter, "We have all the funding we need out of Russia." That's a direct quote. We have all the funding we need out of Russia. Okay, and Dotson, the reporter, then asked, "Really?" And Eric said, "Oh yeah, we've got some guys that really, really love golf, and they're really invested in our programs. We just go there all the time." Yeah, Russian oligarchs, they really, really love golf. That's why they funneled hundreds of millions of dollars to Donald Trump. That's not why.
Rich people do like golf, in my experience.
And so that's Eric Trump. Donald Trump Jr. said back in 2008, quote, "Russians make up a pretty disproportionate cross-section of a lot of our assets. We see a lot of money pouring in from Russia." How obvious does it have to be? So that's why Bannon says this train goes through Donald Trump Jr. and they're going to crack him like an egg. Because the kid's an idiot. They're both idiots. They're so stupid. Their dad, who's monstrously stupid, thinks they're dumb. Okay, that's how dumb the kids are. And he wasn't done yet. Bannon also apparently called Ivanka dumb as a brick. So, and she's supposed to be the smart one. So,
I think she is.
God. So, look, it's about the money. It's always been about the money. The collusion during the election is a side effect of the money laundering that Trump's been doing for the Russians. That's why I thought he'd never run, because I was wrong. I thought that he would have to show his taxes. Turns out, no, he didn't have to show his taxes. He never showed them. But Mueller's in his taxes now, and he's also in the Deutsche Bank account. And Bannon also talked about Deutsche Bank. He said, Mueller's in Deutsche Bank. It's over. You're not getting it. You don't get it, because the media, for all the talking that they do about Trump and all the talk about collusion, the minor little stuff that they make, I think they actually make into too big a deal in terms of the actual election stuff. The emails, was it stolen? Was it WikiLeaks? Did they get it from Russia? No, you're missing the big picture. The reality is that the election is the last part of the deal. Okay, so look, you can say that I'm wrong about it, and I've been saying this for a year, and I've been saying it based on evidence you already see in the public. But why would Bannon say it? Why would Bannon, while he's still with Trump, say this stuff? Because he knows they did it. He knows it, and he just said it. Look, man, in 1,000 different ways, it's game, set, match. I mean, it's not like it's over today. Mueller hasn't actually revealed anything yet. There's been the actual indictments of Trump, the resignations, etc., etc. But this train, it's a runaway train, and they think that they're going to call it fake news and stop it. They're not going to stop it. You know why? Because Trump is not smart enough to cover it up. As Bannon said on another instance, not related to this book, Trump has the mentality of an 11-year-old. You think he can cover up hundreds of millions of dollars in money laundering with the Russians? You think he's sophisticated enough to do that? Hell no. They're in the Deutsche Bank account. Na 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 na. And hey, conservatives, pick a side. Can't wait. Whose side are you on, Bannon or Trump? This is awesome.
I'm going to predict Moscow with Trump. But we'll see. Now, this is a catfight, though, so we do need to get the other side. We have to be fair to Trump, which I insisted I would never do, so we're going to continue to mock him. But Donald Trump was, of course, not happy about the revelations coming out of Michael Wolff's upcoming book, especially the quotes about Steve Bannon and how he viewed the Donald Trump Jr. Trump Tower meeting. And so Trump put out a statement. We're going to show you excerpts of that. We also have Sarah Huckabee Sanders covering for the president as well. First, the statement. He said, Steve Bannon has nothing to do with me or my presidency. When he was fired, he not only lost his job, he lost his mind. And if Trump is an expert on anything, it is having lost your mind. We're going to show you more. But imagine, though, if, I don't even know, what would a similar situation be if Rahm Emanuel said something mean about President Obama? Imagine President Obama saying he lost his mind. We live in strange times. But he said that. Then he goes on to say, now that he is on his own, Steve is learning that winning isn't as easy as I make it look. Steve had very little to do with our historic victory, which directly goes against past things that Trump has said, but which was delivered by the forgotten men and women of this country, forgotten even by Trump now. Yet Steve had everything to... I love that this is thrown in. It has nothing to do with what they're talking about. Yet Steve had everything to do with the loss of a Senate seat in Alabama, held for more than 30 years by Republicans. So both Steve Bannon and Trump supported Roy Moore, even though it was a terrible call. The night of the election loss of Roy Moore, Trump says this had nothing to do with me, but everything to do with Steve Bannon, who, like Trump, campaigned for Roy Moore. It has nothing to do with anything. I love that moment.
Man, political blood all over the streets. I mean, look, first of all, if you're a sane human being who's president, you wouldn't use any of these words to begin with. Fine. Okay, but it's Trump. We're past that. Okay, second of all, pause for a second. This is all in the press, the stuff that you call fake news, which is, of course, not fake. That's why you're flipping out. Call Bannon. Hey, Steve, did you really talk to Michael Wolff? Can we pretend that you didn't? Can you go out there and claim that it's fake news? Can we do damage control? But he's a child. He has no self-control, and he has no intelligence whatsoever. So he doesn't think rationally. He goes, blah! Okay, he's a loser. I'm a winner. Okay, he lost not only his job, but his mind. I got him. No. What you just made there was you made this civil war intractable and irreversible. So now Bannon must strike back at you. So now you've lost Breitbart. You've lost some wing of your base, certainly, right? What do you have left? This is Tony killing Christopher. You got nothing left. The last scene is in a diner. Okay, and the last face you see is Mueller. You're done. Why did you react and lash out this way? It's such a stupid thing to do. Thank you.
Well, the interesting thing is that so far as I know, Bannon, the only statement out of Bannon by a spokesperson is that he's going to step back and just let this thing proceed for a little bit. We'll see how long that goes. So all you have are quotes from an as-yet unreleased book. It would be so easy to say Michael Wolff is lying about Bannon, but he doesn't do that because he knows he's not lying. Now, Bannon might be lying, but apparently Bannon did tell Michael Wolff those things.
And Bannon is not lying. Okay.
I'm just saying, if we're going to trust someone, Steve Bannon is not my number one person to trust.
The only person I trust less is Donald Trump.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. So, and Bannon has a logical reason to state these things, which is they're all going to jail and I'm not going there. Okay, and Trump has all the reason in the world to lie, no reason to tell the truth.
Yeah,
but it doesn't matter. You're right. They could have concocted 1,000 different stories to try to weasel their way out of it, maintain the base. They could have done all those things. But he's a temperamental child. Today in the news, we've got the North Korea story where White House insiders are saying you guys aren't getting it. He's on a hair trigger. He could start a nuclear war at any time. You think that Donald Trump is dangerous, and I see cable news all the time. No, you misunderstand the danger. It is much larger than you realize because they see it every single day. Steve Bannon saw it every single day. That's why he said he has the mentality of an 11-year-old. Yeah. That's why when Donald Trump sees this, instead of being calm and trying to figure out a strategy to combat it, it's a deeply, deeply problematic issue for your White House. Hey, let's get together. If there are any smart people in the White House, let's do a strategy meeting, right? No. Scrummeting. Right? I forgot about that. Which now has made that hole way bigger, and all Trump's going to do going forward is keep digging.
Okay, well, we got a little bit more. A couple more quotes, then we have Sarah Huckabee Sanders attempting to do some damage control. Trump had said in that statement, Steve pretends to be at war with the media, which he calls the opposition party. yet he spent his time at the White House leaking false information to the media to make himself seem far more important than he was. It is the only thing he does well. Steve was rarely in a one-on-one meeting with me and only pretends to have had influence to fool a few people with no access and no clue whom he helped write phony books. God, phony is such a great dumb person word. But anyway, as we're going to get to, like, he tried to put him on the National Security Council. This is a guy who not just, like, convinced him, like, hey, maybe you should pattern yourself after one of the worst presidents America's ever had, Andrew Jackson. But he was going to put him, like, above the Joint Chiefs for national security policy making. He really didn't have much influence over me, though.
And remember, when Bannon left the White House, Trump had nothing but great things to say about him. And he said he was a good guy.
Search his Twitter right now. I did it earlier today. Lots of great stuff about him. As soon as he had left, it was, I wish him the best. Really smart and tough guy.
That's right. And by the way, for what it's worth, Bannon also had said that the Russian investigation is phony, etc. Internally, he thought not phony, as he says in the book. It's a Category 5, and they're sitting right on the beach.
Yeah. Now let's go to a couple of these clips from today's press conference. First, here is if they want to add anything to the statements that we've just read from for you.
I think the president's statement is extremely clear what his position on Mr. Bannon is. It's pretty lengthy and pretty detailed, and there's not really much to clarify or to add. But once again, I think the president's statement fully addresses what his position and what his relationship with Mr. Bannon is.
I think there's some stuff you could theoretically clarify, and I think that they will attempt to do that. But first, we were just talking about what position Bannon actually had in the White House. So here is an attempt by reporters to get some response to that.
Sarah, the president's statement suggests that Steve Bannon had very little influence in the White House, but the president himself elevated him to the same level as the chief of staff and put him on the National Security Council. How do you reconcile that?
I wouldn't say that he elevated him to the same level of the chief of staff, and I think that in the actions that Steve took, the president was clear that it didn't have a lot of influence on him or the decision-making process throughout his time here at the White House.
And so, look, the reporters are sort of confused, but I don't think it's that complicated. He was a basically low-level intern who did typical intern shit, like make coffee, determine national security policy, go run some errands or something, run the entire campaign. Typical intern crap.
Be the chief strategist. If he's the coffee boy, why did you give him the title of chief strategist?
Yeah. Now, he doesn't have a nickname yet, but I'm waiting for that. I don't know what it's going to be. Something about autofellatio, I would suggest.
Yeah, it's not going to be clever. What would be clever, and it's a layup, it's easy actually, is loose Bannon, right? Bannon fodder, whatever, the stuff that we do. Yeah, okay. He's not going to do any of that. He's going to be like, bad Steve.
It's going to be like bonkers Bannon.
No, that's way too clever.
Damn.
So, you remember that for the Russia investigation, he called up all his friends because he thought he had a really clever comeback. And they said, what is it? What is it? He said, I'm going to call it a witch hunt.
Yeah.
I'm not sure he's got two brain cells to rub together. It's like 1.5. One's just kind of like, I'm struggling here.
Yeah. Well, it's only going to get worse every year from here on out for him, mentally. By the way, one final thing, if we could bring up graphic 30, you're going to see that you wanted to see where they were going to come out on sides. It appears that Matt Drudge is going with the president. No wonder schizophrenic Steve Bannon has been walking around with a small army of bodyguards.
Okay. George and Bannon had always been fighting, so I'm not surprised by that. I am a little curious where the alt-right is going to go. Mm-hmm. Because the trolls have never been more confused.
Well, it'll be interesting. I could see a way that, so it seems like, okay, they love Trump, obviously, but they also love Bannon because he represents their ideology in a more pure way, perhaps, than Trump does.
Yeah.
But I think that, and they want Breitbart. They love Breitbart. But if Breitbart were to distance themselves from Bannon, which is difficult but not impossible, then maybe they could have it both ways. And so far, I saw Breitbart's headline today was he not only lost his job, he lost his mind. So, I mean, it wasn't a strong reaction to what the president said. It was simply publicizing what the president said.
Well, we're going to find out if Bannon's alone or not based on what Robert Mercer does. So Robert Mercer, for the progressives, it's almost all grassroots. rich liberals give all their money to terrible people like David Brock, and they try to basically maintain the status quo. So they're of no help to actual progressives. Really, literally, almost none. Like all this boogeyman about, George Soros. What has Soros given that has actually helped anything, right? It all goes to like stupid stuff at the very top, mainly to protect the status quo. Okay, but for Republicans, almost everything is based on the guy behind the guy. Okay, the money guys. So yesterday we did the story of Rabbi Shmuley puts out an ad in the Washington Post against Lord in New Zealand, calling them anti-Semitic. Rabbi Shmuley doesn't have any fucking money. Okay, it's Sheldon Adelson who, and yeah, by the way, it's reported as such, who gave Shmuley the money to run that ad. So it's not Shmuley, it's Adelson who's doing it, right? And Bannon is not Bannon, it's Robert Mercer. Without Robert Mercer, Breitbart actually does not have that many readers. You think the alt-right reads? Those trolls couldn't. That's why they like Pepe the Frog. They're like, it's a cartoon. I get it. It's a picture, right? So without Mercer, Breitbart's nothing. They go bankrupt tomorrow. And so which way is Mercer going to go? Did Mercer sanction this? In other words, by the way, just like I told you on day one as well, once they get their tax cuts,
yeah, exactly.
They're done with them.
They're need Trump done with them. I mean, Trump at this point is just dead weight, and he only serves to increase the chance that they lose control of at least the House, probably not the Senate, but possibly the Senate. And that sort of thing could actually harm. I mean, the tax cuts are not going to be reversed tomorrow. It's very difficult, but if they're going to be, that's an important first step. And Trump only makes it more likely at this point. So they got their money. If they want to keep their money, Trump endangers it.
Yeah.
Plus, they could die in a nuclear apocalypse. That's a side note at this point.
Yeah, I'm trying not to gloat too much, but this train looks like it's headed towards the biggest told you of all time. Yeah. So, all right, we'll see how Mercer reacts, and you'll know based on whether they throw Bannon out from Breitbart or not, and we'll see how that goes. Okay. Before we move on to the other crazy parts of the book, I actually want to say one more thing about this whole debacle. Okay, so Michael Wolff's book's coming out. Steve Bannon unloads on Donald Trump and his inner circle, mainly his inner circle, but also Trump. And the guys he can't stand the most are what he calls Javanka. So Ivanka and Jared Kushner. So Kissinger is quoted in the book as saying the war within the White House was the Jews versus the non-Jews. Ooh, that doesn't sound good, right? No. So Kushner is Jewish, and Ivanka, Donald Trump's daughter, obviously converted to Judaism. So I don't know if that has anything to do with it. It's just a side note, okay? But certainly they did not like each other. That's the important part. Now, we told you in overall coverage of the story that Bannon had said this is all about money laundering. Mueller chose Andrew Weissman, a senior prosecutor, first, and he's a money laundering guy. Their path to fucking Trump goes right through Paul Manafort, Don Jr., and Jared Kushner. So now, again, we told you on this show for about a year that it's the money laundering, stupid. That's the real heart of this issue. Now, as chief strategist confirms that. Okay, now let's go to Kushner. This is really important. Bannon says it goes through Deutsche Bank and all the Kushner shit. The Kushner shit is greasy. They're going to go right through that. They're going to roll those two guys up and say, play me or trade me. Okay, so when they do that, there might be yet another shocking thing that happens, which is Jared Kushner flipping on Trump. Now, that seems unthinkable. He's his son-in-law. He's married to Ivanka. But remember, Javanka actually cares a little bit about self-respect and respectability and the mainstream, and they're always tiptoeing around the issues and trying to distance themselves a little bit. Yeah. Charlottesville was bad, and this and that. And by the way,
supposedly care about women.
Right.
Supposedly.
Right, but to their credit, they're not quite as monstrous as Trump in some of those things. It's a good thing to criticize Charlottesville, right? What happened in Charlottesville. So, but Kushner is going to want to save his own ass. If Bannon is right, and we are right, and this is a Category 5, and it is money laundering, and we're not talking about, hey, the Russians buy $46,000 in Facebook ads. Whatever. We're talking about money laundering hundreds of millions of dollars for the Russians for decades, okay? If that's what this is about, and everybody's going to jail, Could Kushner flip? My answer is yes. I don't perceive Jared Kushner as a guy who says, loyalty above everything else. If my papa is going to jail, but I'll be in the cell next to him. I see him as the guy who goes, well, anyways, I gotta go. So, I might be right, I might be wrong, but look for Kushner flipping. Not now. We're not there yet. But if it gets deep enough, and this is not resolved, the straw that broke Trump's back could be Kushner.
It's also possible, this is based on nothing except the past people who have been indicted, but I believe in the case, it seems like Flynn and definitely Papadopoulos, like you have these people that indictments come out, all of a sudden it's big news and everything, but they had already been providing information to Mueller for some time. And so it's likely that if Jared was to flip one day, or we were to find out about it, he could have already been feeding information to Mueller for a month or two at that point. That seems to be how Mueller is operating.
And one other thing about the guys who flipped, the reason Manafort hasn't flipped is because he's totally and completely guilty, and he's been guilty for decades. So he's got nothing to flip. I mean, in the sense that he's part of the conspiracy in such a gigantic way. Kushner could say, he's been doing that for all this time. I mean, I got married into the family a couple of years ago. I don't know anything about that, man. Okay, but I'll give you what I know, and I'll do this and this and this.
Might be hard since he was at that meeting.
Yeah.
But it also gives him information.
It gives him, at least he was at the meeting where they met with the Russian lawyer and discussed lifting the sanctions on the Russian oligarch, which is the central part of the deal that it seems Trump has struck with the Russians, at least according to Bannon, according to all available evidence, etc. So, if his own son-in-law and his beloved Ivanka are the ones that do him in, oh, that is going to be rich and wonderful.
The only thing that would be better, and I don't see how it could happen, would be if it were Tiffany.
If Trump goes down,
I don't see it happening.
I have a tweet saved, ready to go if Trump goes down. It just says, sad, baby. Okay, we got to take a break, but we're not done yet. Okay, we still have other revelations from the book. We have the North Korea story. Whose button is bigger? John and I will have a button up. No, we will not.
Does his button work? We're going to test it.
Okay. I told my wife, she doesn't follow politics. I told my wife at lunch Trump's tweet. She couldn't stop laughing. She's like, no, come on, you're kidding, right? I'm like, it's verbatim. Okay, we'll talk about it when we come back.
T-minus 1 minute till landing. TYT broadcast controllers, listen up. Give me a go, no-go for landing. Sound?
Audio is hovering at minus 12 decibels. We're go.
Streaming?
We're go.
Camera crew?
We're go.
Mission control?
We're go.
Stats?
We're good.
Iguana? Sir, we are go for landing. Okay, everybody. I want this to go off without a hitch.
Sir, I've been looking over this joke for the past hour. And with the cannon firing now weeks old and raining in
English, Johnson, English. What are you trying to tell me?
this joke isn't going to land, sir.
Okay, everyone. Forget the old plan. From this moment on, we're improvising a new joke. So this is where the show started. And this is where it was supposed to end. Now, the joke was supposed to land here, but that's not going to happen, obviously. So we need to come up with a new joke. Maybe here?
Hits are dropping, streams are failing, retweets are stopping.
40 seconds. Alright, team. We gotta find a way to make this fit into a joke about this that will appeal to them. 30 seconds.
The Trump jokes are safest option. Trying to land a Trump joke after this week's events is a suicide mission.
We are officially out of time. We need to act now.
Sir, I think our best course of action is to let Jink try to land A dad joke.
That's the deal?
That's the deal.
All right, everyone, to their stations. Cameras, position, social media team. Brace run follows. 10 seconds. As for the rest of us, all any of us can do now is wait and hope.
This is gonna be the worst disaster TYT has ever experienced.
With all due respect, sir, I think this will be the finest hour 2 yet.
Come on, Jake.
Everyone, it's been a pleasure streaming with you.
The Prime Minister immediately picked up the phone to Putin and said, "You Putin any money in?" Okay, anyway.
TYT crew, the joke has landed.
Easy for me. I started off in Brooklyn. My father gave me a small loan of $1 million. All my life, I was told no.
You said I had small hands. They're not small, Lars. I never heard that one before.
Turks, we really got to get to more stories here, so I'm just going to read two tweets. Deck Garvey writes, with the amount of backstabbing, incest, conspiracy, and chaos in the current GOP, don't miss Game of Thrones at all. It is kind of true. I mean, but in Trump's White House, everyone is a dumb version of Littlefinger. and in Trump's case, he's little hands.
Yeah. They think chaos is a ladder, but they keep falling off of it.
Because they have tiny little hands. They can't hold on to the ladder.
Are like that. It's hard.
Dr. Chaos MD says Trump attacking Bannon means that Trump has probably lost some very fine people from his side.
Yeah.
All right, let's do the rest.
Okay. There's more than just the Bannon revelations coming out of the upcoming book by Michael Wolff. Some of it having to go back to the run-up to the actual election and what the goal of the Trump campaign actually was. And so I want to turn to that now. In the book, it says, even though the numbers in a few key states had appeared to be changing to Trump's advantage, this is on election night, neither Kellyanne Conway, nor Trump himself, nor his son-in-law Jared Kushner, the effective head of the campaign, wavered in their certainty. Their unexpected adventure would soon be over. That's the campaign. Not only would Trump not be president, almost everyone in the campaign agreed, he should probably not be. Conveniently, the former conviction meant nobody had to deal with the latter issue. Except, oops, he ends up going on to actually win. So they were apparently shocked by that. But, so, if they didn't think he could win, why was he actually running? Well, apparently, Trump, encouraged by Ailes, was, in the run-up to the election, floating rumors about a Trump network, which we talked about at the time. It was a great future. He would come out of this campaign, Trump assured Ailes, with a far more powerful brand and untold opportunity. However, election day came, and it started to look like he was going to win, and this is amazing. Shortly after 8 p.m. on election night, when the unexpected trend, Trump might actually win, seemed confirmed, Don Jr. told a friend that his father, or DJT as he calls him, looked as if he had seen a ghost. Melania was in tears and not of joy.
Wow. Wow. But look, think about it, guys. So why did I say that Trump didn't want to run? I maintained that for years and years and years, all the years he threatened to run, because I thought he had to give up his tax returns. I was wrong about that. Turns out he didn't have to. And he can't have the tax returns out, not just because it shows that he doesn't have as much money as he claimed, but because of potential ties to Russian oligarchs. So it is a fact confirmed by both Eric Trump and Donald Trump Jr. that they have received hundreds of millions of dollars from the Russians. Now, you can say that there are some very fine people that are Russian oligarchs, maybe, but if you're receiving that sum of money from the Russians, there's usually something they ask for in return, and the issue of money laundering, of course, has come up, and specifically in this book. So, in that scenario, it turns out you don't have to give your tax returns running for president. But if you win the presidency, are you really going to be able to survive 4 years without anyone looking at your tax returns? That becomes really, really unlikely. Then you've signed up for something you really didn't imagine or want. Why wouldn't you want to be president? The only reason you wouldn't want to be president is if you are, people are going to find out something you really, really don't want them to find out. In fact, you'll fire the head of the FBI to make it happen. You'll threaten to fire the Attorney General to make sure they don't find out. You'll threaten to fire the Special Counsel to make sure they don't find out, etc. And Melania, I mean, that's a real side story. It's just like a little bit of schadenfreude, but like, to me, she looks like she's in a hostage video in all the appearances, right? And, the swatting away of the hand. These are minor little things, but she's got to be thinking, I didn't sign up for this. I signed up to marry an obnoxious rich guy. But now all of a sudden, the whole world is watching us, and I know what's behind the curtain, and it's not good.
Yeah, another section said that on Inauguration Day, she was nearly in tears, too. That he was angry and fighting with her and all that. On Inauguration Day, even though he had the biggest crowd ever. Now, there is more, though. Really fast, though, again, like we talked about whether he actually wanted to win anyway, and he is enough of a narcissist, another thing that Bannon called him in the book, to run just because he thought it would benefit himself later, that his brand would improve, he'd have new deals or whatever. But think about, like, if you're a Republican, how cold that is, that you would run thinking you're going to lose Hillary Clinton just to help yourself, that you took away the chance that some other Republican would have had. That is cold-blooded. But there's more information.
But can I just say to that?
Of course! Yeah, of course. I'm just saying, like, if you actually cared about the country. But here's another thing about
party or the
party
ideology.
or your ideology.
What ideology? He has no ideology. Yeah. The least interesting revelation of the book is Bannon calling him a narcissist. Of course! We all already knew that.
Another section, though. Early in the campaign, Sam Nunberg was sent to explain the Constitution to Trump. I got as far as the Fourth Amendment before his finger is pulling down on his lip and his eyes are rolling back in his head.
By the way, no, he didn't. Ask Trump right now what the Third Amendment is.
That's true.
He has no idea.
Yeah, like for Trump's sake, he really should have stuck around at least to the 25th. But anyway, a little bit more for you. So this is. I hope that this causes another little feud, and it's going to be tough because it's his favorite channel ever. After Trump met with a high-level delegation from Silicon Valley, he reportedly called Rupert Murdoch to give him a rundown. Trump said the meeting went great, and Obama was not very favorable to them. Too much regulation. Murdoch reportedly ended the call with a shrug, saying, "What a fucking idiot." Oh, that's Murdoch.
But no. But every single person who has met with Trump walked away saying that. Remember, Rex Tillerson famously walked away after he said, "Why don't we make the nuclear arsenal 10 times the size?"
Yeah.
And Tillerson walked out going, "What a fucking moron." Thomas Barack Jr., one of his top funders, Trump's funders and friends. He's a billionaire. Apparently behind the scenes said he's not only crazy, but stupid. Another friend had once said, "Look, we all know he's a pathological liar. It's okay, he's a good guy, he's a fun guy to hang out with. You just don't trust anything he says." Okay.
Jeez.
if you know the people from inside the White House, why do you think Bob Corker, deeply right-wing Republican senator from Tennessee who voted for those monstrous tax cuts, who votes for everything the Republicans want, why do you think he came out and said people inside the White House are warning that we're in a dangerous situation? Because anyone who spends a day with Donald Trump walks out thinking that guy's a fucking idiot, and oh my God, he's got his finger on the button. We got to get him out of there.
Well,
this is a danger to the world.
Why don't we transition to that now? This is the scary part. There's a little bit of fun up to now, but yesterday, those of us who prefer the world mushroom cloud free had something to worry about. Donald Trump responded to a couple-day-old North Korean provocation in his usual manner via tweets, tweeting this, and if you haven't already seen this, we swear he actually tweeted this. It seems made up, but it's true. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un just stated that the nuclear button is on his desk at all times. Will someone from his depleted and food-starved regime please inform him that I too have a capital letters nuclear button, but it is much bigger and more powerful one than his, and my button works. My capital button works.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
I think he actually thinks that that's what that button does. I mean, thankfully, it gets him a Diet Coke, but he forgets.
Yeah. Okay. What do you say to a tweet like that? Any other president, it would have been the biggest scandal of their administration by an order of magnitude. It is 10 times crazier, 100 times crazier than the craziest thing Barack Obama ever did. But by the way, I mean, look, so George Bush did worse things. He invaded Iraq. Hundreds of thousands of people died. But even George Bush knew that he was not that bright. That's why he would get the word of the day. And sometimes he'd accidentally tell you. And sometimes he'd get it wrong. And then he'd be embarrassed, right?
But he wanted to learn.
Right, he wanted to learn. And he knew that he wasn't that bright. And I remember one time he came out and said, they disassembled. That means to lie. Right? No, that means to take apart. But he was embarrassed by that, right? But Trump is not bright enough to realize how stupid he is. So he puts that tweet out like, I got him. My button's bigger. You know what I'm saying? My hands are big. My button is big. Much bigger than his. And it definitely works. Everybody will tell you. There's no problems down there. He said that during a debate, remember? Yeah. About his actual genitalia.
He didn't just... Okay.
And the Republicans still voted for him.
We have an international button measuring contest going on right now, but it wasn't just the size of it. He said it definitely works. I know that this has nothing to do with the nuclear policy, and it's a personal thing. A lot of people across the country suffer from it, but it doesn't work. That much comes through here.
Who screams to the whole world, my button works?
And I just think, it's one thing I know, conservatives are going to be like, look at libs, they're getting so emotional about the possibility of millions of people being incinerated. But imagine if you were one, I'll try to appeal to conservatives, imagine if you're one of the thousands of American servicemen and women currently stationed in South Korea, or even in Japan, and you're close to the DMZ, and you are already deathly afraid every day of the possibility of war breaking out, because you know that within hours, hundreds of thousands of people could likely die, and that's without nuclear weapons. But now, you read a tweet, it pops up on your feed, because maybe you like Trump, maybe you voted for Trump, and he's threatening to launch nukes at a nuclear-equipped madman, another nuclear-equipped madman. How do you think that those service people feel every day wondering if they will be obliterated like that because of what this man-child is talking about on Twitter?
No, we got to go to the Mike Allister from Axios. So he's got an insider at the White House saying, quote, every war in history was an accident. But here's where it gets devastating. You just don't know what's going to send him over the edge. That's someone who works inside the White House saying, you guys don't understand. This guy, he could literally push the button. You don't know what's going to send him over the edge. We're on the brink of nuclear war, and you don't get it here. Here's more. And advisors say we are in a hair-trigger environment, and this is potentially a shooting war with nuclear risk. It's people next to Trump trying to tell the rest of the country, the rest of the world, and those service members and the poor South Koreans that are in the firing line, you guys aren't getting him. You think he's crazy and stupid. You have no idea how crazy and stupid he is. and he's sitting there having conversations about whether we should nuke people. One advisor said, what intel analysis or foreign policy advice leads to employing this as a tactic, referring to the tweet? In other words, he won't listen to anyone. He's not listening to intelligence advisors. He's not listening to the experts. He just goes out there because he's just. I fear I'm repeating myself, but as much as cable news has derided Trump, they still don't get it. I see them, and I see smart people. I saw it yesterday on TV trying to analyze his strategy. There is no strategy. He's preposterously dumb, and he's petulant, and he's a child, and he has a mentality of again, I feel bad insulting kids, as Steve Bannon said, of an 11-year-old. So people inside the White House are saying, no, you don't get it. He actually is considering doing this. It would kill millions of people. You don't get it. So it's both funny because who talks about their button and how big it is and how it works, etc. And it's at the same time not remotely funny. And the guys inside the White House are trying to tell us it's not funny. He is that dumb. He will do things you think, oh no, he won't do that. There is no such thing in the Trump world as, no, he won't do that. Yes, he will. We got to get him out right away. We can't have all those people die because we have a man-child in office.
I mean, I know that you're not supposed to say it seems irrational or whatever, but yeah, he needs to be taken out of office. And I know it's not going to happen because the Republicans care more about, party and dismantling Social Security. They think that their chances would be hurt if they took him out. They don't care about the country. They care about that. But they need to take him out. And if not, God, I hope that there are enough reasonable Republicans still in office to at least pass a law banning first use of nuclear weapons. It was something that Barack Obama was apparently considering, then backed off from because of military officials or whatever. That was a huge failure on his part. But that law needs to be passed today, and it needs to be strong enough to not just restrict someone like Donald Trump, but whichever president comes after him. Doesn't matter if it's Democrat, Republican, third party, whatever. There should be no nuclear first use. It's something that's becoming increasingly common in the world. It needs to be the case here as well, because there is no first use isn't good enough if you also will be annihilated in the return fire from someone like North Korea or possibly one of their allies. That needs to be passed today if we can't, at the very least, take him out.
Yeah, I agree.
Moving on.
We got to take a break. I have 1,000 more things to say, but we got to get to other stories. So let's take a quick break here, and hopefully we'll still be here when we return.
say is Donald Trump an intellectual? Trust me, I'm like a smart person. You fast-food
All right, guys. Bart, why did you have to play that? I'm not going to be able to get that in my head for the rest of the day now. Oh, my God. This world we live in.
Yeah. FDR said the same thing. Trust me, I'm like a smart person.
I'm like a smart person.
Okay. Young Turks, Jenkins, John with you guys. We got one more quick segment for you guys. I'll read some tweets in the second hour. All right, what's next, John?
Oh, okay, you're going to wait till that. Okay, that makes sense then. We've got new details on a mass arrest that ended a New Year's Eve party after police found a tiny little bit of drugs. And wait till you hear these details. Officers arrived at this party after hearing what was reported as gunfire, and they detected the odor of marijuana and observed subjects fleeing the premises, probably because it was being raided by the police. While conducting their investigation, officers noted marijuana in plain view and initially recovered a semi-automatic handgun, which contextually is either a right that all Americans have, or if it's a person of a different race, it's cause to arrest dozens and dozens of people. So they reportedly entered the house without the permission of the partygoers, and after less than 1 ounce of marijuana was discovered, 63 attendees were arrested and sent to jail because no one claimed the drugs as theirs. So they had to arrest 63 people. Damn, that's a big party. I've never had a party that big. Everyone at the house was arrested for possession of the marijuana, which police say was in everyone's reach or control. Although, to be fair, it was 1 ounce. So I'm sure some of those 63 people were out of arm's reach of it. And according to jail records, the 63 individuals who were arrested on Saturday night were processed by Monday night. That's quite a gap there.
Oh, my God.
All were charged with a single count of marijuana possession, although that's literally impossible for them to all possessed it. It would have to be like 1 grain at that point. The individuals arrested were predominantly black males, aged 19 to 25. You will be shocked to find out. And Channel 2 reports some have lost their jobs as a result of spending multiple days in jail because of course. Now, you should understand that this was in Georgia. It was in Cartersville, Georgia. Now, in Athens, Georgia, black individuals are 4.7 times more likely to be charged with a marijuana violation than white individuals. The same discrepancy exists on the national level as well. So I wonder, perhaps that had something to do with what happened in Cartersville.
So I had an interesting experience reading this story, John, because in the beginning they don't talk about what the race is. So as I'm reading the story, I'm like, man, it's Georgia. So they're more conservative there. I didn't even think about race. I'm just thinking about the war on drugs and how stupid it is. My God, they're arresting 63 people for 1 ounce of marijuana. Then I read they were threatened with tasers. Okay, I'm like, all right, partygoers more likely to be black as we keep going in the story. Mm-hmm. Then they were locked up in cages
or tied with zip ties.
Okay, zip ties. I get they were arrested. Then they put them in cages. Then they're kept in jail for all that time. There's no way they're white. Okay. They're going to lawyer up. People are going to come. Is there going to be worried? 63 people at a party, at a white party. Somebody's going to be powerful. We got to get them out of here, right? Lock them up, let alone keep them in jail for all that time. Have some of them lose jobs, etc. And then I saw this quote. They told me I was unfit person to have a baby. Like, all right. And I was going to ask you, because I didn't think it was going to be in the story, hey, can you look up if they're white or black? And if they're white, I'll come on there and be like, hey, I thought they were going to be black, but it turns out they're white. And then you read later in the story, of course they're black, of course. So you think they go into a white party and arrest 63 people and put them into cages over an ounce of marijuana? You know why they went in the first place? They're worried about gunshots. They find out it's fireworks. White people are having a party with fireworks. There's 1 ounce of marijuana, and they arrest them all. No way. I know we're crazy on the war on drugs, right? And it's like anything is possible now, right? And cops are shooting moms in yoga pants. But it doesn't look. It's an unbelievable anecdote. But if you say, hey, it's just an anecdote, John just gave you the numbers. in a similar town in Georgia, 4.7 times more likely to get arrested if you're black. The national average is a little lower, to be fair. You're 3.7 times more likely to be arrested, even though you're just as likely to smoke marijuana if you're white or black. So are they targeting black people in mass throughout the country? And it doesn't have to be purposeful. The cops there don't have to go with the mindset of, I hate all black people. If they're black in there, I'm going to arrest everyone. They don't have to think that. That's not what we're saying. But there are assumptions that they make. There's stereotypes in the back of their heads, which leads to black people being arrested 4 times the rate of white people for the same harmless offense of smoking marijuana, or in this case, not smoking it.
I mean, I don't know how many cops they had there, but how did one not just look around as they're carting out dozen after dozen after dozen of people, just think, what the hell are we doing? We got in this supposedly because of something having to do with justice, and you have to go pretty far astray to end up with this sort of situation. And I mean, the racial component, see, as you point out, I like to be very upfront about the things I don't have enough experience to talk about. But I will say that in this case, I have literally decades of experience of being white. And there has never been a party of 63 white people between 19 and 25 that didn't have an ounce of marijuana, okay? You can break up every party I've ever been to if you want to and card them all off. You can take their weed, you can take their Dave Matthews CDs, you can do it all. But they don't, obviously, because of the racial component to all of this.
Okay, and the last thing, guys, look. There's 3 layers to this story. There's the outrageous war on drugs is so monumentally stupid. There's the racial angle, which we discussed. But there's an argument to be made. The most important angle is the class angle.
Yeah.
Because, it is conceivable. The only way that it's conceivable is if 63 white guys in a holla in the middle of West Virginia, right? And they don't give a damn about you.
Also do nothing.
Right. Well, it might be a different joke, but it's okay. They don't care about you. But you know in your heart of heart, it doesn't matter. You all know it doesn't matter if you're right wing or left winger. There's no way they're arresting 63 people in a party in Beverly Hills over an ounce of marijuana. It is not a thing that happens in this country. It will never happen in this country. There's no way they're arresting 63 people at Princeton. There's no way they're arresting 63 people on Wall Street. It's just not going to happen over an ounce of marijuana. But if you're poor, they don't care about you. They just look at you as something they have to process, not as actual human beings.
I think they would not arrest a party of 63 people in Beverly Hills if they had an ounce of weapons-grade plutonium. Marijuana. They could have anything. They're not arresting them.
Yes. All right. We're out of time. So, in the next hour, Anna's here, and get a load of this. Laura Ingraham thinks that there's one person who's going to help women in this country the most. You're not going to be surprised that she thinks it's Donald Trump. But wait till you get a load of the details on why she thinks he's going to help women so much and who is not going to help them. And it seems like they're helping. No, there's agenda upon agenda. And that's the other thing, guys. Conservatives, at least 25% of them have lost their minds. They're conspiracy theory on top of conspiracy theory. They're on Fox. They're on a cable news station that is a successful cable news station saying insane conspiracy theory after conspiracy theory. All right, we'll share that one with you when we return. All right, back on the anchors. I just read one of your tweets. That's why I was laughing. Jake, you Granic Kasparian. How you doing, Casper?
I'm excellent.
Okay, it is an excellent day. It really is.
I've had fun.
Oh, yes. So Bud Askins writes, says Sarah Sanders can explain away any White House staffer's role by minimizing their contribution after they are shit-canned. Imagining her spin on Trump's role the day after he's impeached. Mr. Trump was only a president in name only. He had no real input on policy. Although that would actually be slightly true.
She's actually really good at framing things in Trump's advantage, and we're going to get to a story in this hour in regard to that you guys will love.
Yeah. I actually think she does a serviceable job. I know people's heads will explode.
She does.
Yeah, because she has an impossible job trying to explain away the absurdities and the lies of Donald Trump. Given the impossibility of her job, she hangs in there every day. She fends it off somehow. She survives every day.
She never loses her temper, at least not as far as I've seen.
Yeah, she's calm, and she's just like, oh, yeah, I'm going to keep bullshitting you. That's my job. That's what I'm going to do. Okay. I showed up today. I got a lunch pail. Anyway, Triple Sec writes in, Jenks just started a crowdfunding site for bail. You can do it. For the 63 guys who were arrested in Georgia. But remember the post game we did yesterday. Not another water-thin wafer. So I love you guys. Can you guys start? Sometimes you guys start stuff that's better than us. When you wanted Bernie on the show, I mentioned it once, and the 17,000 people signed a petition in 24 hours. You didn't know that?
No.
That's part of why Bernie came on.
That's freaking awesome. You guys are great. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I really didn't.
Yeah. No, that was a huge factor in why he came on. Anyway, it was an absolute outrage to what happened to those guys in Georgia. So, by all means, let's somehow help them out. I mean, are they really going to press those charges? I know they kept them in jail from Saturday night to Monday night, which is just outrageous. But they're going to follow through. They're going to try to ruin the lives of 63 people for an ounce of marijuana. Yeah, so definitely help them in any way that you can. I meant to read the members of the day, but we do have to do the stories. tytnetwork.com/join to become a member and get all those post games where we talk about those things. All right, what's next?
All right. The women of Hollywood have come together, raised money, and they are pushing forward with an effort to provide legal assistance and legal funding to individuals who have been victimized by sexual assault or rape in the industries that they work in. Now, this is an effort that not only impacts women who work in the entertainment industry, but women who work in all different types of jobs, including those who might work as employees at a hotel, maybe cleaning rooms, whatever it is. They just want to make sure that they help provide support to these people. And by the way, it's not just women. They want to help provide support to men who have been victimized as well. It's known as the Time's Up Initiative. The group's aim is to provide a $13 million legal defense fund to help women in a variety of industries bring sexual harassment cases. Now, this is something that has gotten a lot of positive attention because it is a positive effort. This is great news. But there's one person who doesn't think it's great news and thought it would be a great time to criticize the Time's Up initiative. That person is Laura Ingraham. Let's take a look.
But now to the latest sexual harassment opportunism coming out of Hollywood. To great fanfare, they got star treatment in all the magazines, newspapers. A group of 300 female power players in Hollywood announced what they're calling the Time's Up initiative. It's an effort to fight sexual harassment and other gender issues across the country and in the entertainment industry itself. Now, it's awfully convenient that these powerful women, many of whom knew for years about the exploits of Harvey Weinstein and others like him, are now seeking to cleanse themselves from any guilt by association with this type of grand rollout and gesture. But beneath the girl power platitudes and the recruiting of Anita Hill to write up a blueprint to end Hollywood sexual harassment, it's something, all of this feels just like another leftist political hack group. Like it's almost like a political action committee. And at the heart of the Time's Up group is a legal defense fund. You're seeing some of the photos with a $13 million war chest that's going to be used to litigate harassment claims. And donors to fund this? Meryl Streep, Reese Witherspoon, Steven Spielberg, and other Hillary backers. And by the way, several talent agencies, well, under duress, no doubt. It's kind of like what Jesse Jackson used to do with his Operation Push. Well, the defense fund is being led by Tina Chen. As far as I can tell, her only previous claim to fame was that she was chief of staff to, wait for it, Michelle Obama.
Oh, she was chief of staff to Michelle Obama? That means that she can never do anything good. No philanthropic work. We can't trust. She is not to be trusted. What are you doing, homegirl? Like, you're sitting there talking shit, but what are you doing, right? Like, she is literally the only person I've seen so far that has anything negative to say about this. And by the way, the first allegation in that commentary was, oh, these women knew. A lot of these women were victimized themselves, and it didn't matter if they came forward and spoke about it because they were immediately shunned, immediately brushed under the rug. That's exactly what happened with Rose McGowan. And so, she's acting as if all of these people were complicit in what was going on, when in reality, a lot of them were victimized themselves, and they finally feel emboldened and empowered enough to come forward and do something about it.
What does Fox News do? They hire black people to attack black people. They hire Latinos to attack Latinos. And in this case, they hire women to attack other women. They all knew. How do you know they knew? What is, look, by the way, I object to her saying it, and sometimes some liberals say it, right? Like, oh, they knew. How do you know what Meryl Streep knew or didn't know? How are you inside her head? She once worked on 2 movies with Harvey Weinstein. So she knows what Harvey Weinstein was doing in a basement with a potted plant. She doesn't know that. At least you certainly don't know that. It's obviously in an effort to cleanse themselves. Or maybe, just maybe, they actually care about other human beings. I know that's never crossed your mind. Because what do conservatives do? Projection. She thinks, well, I would never care about any other person. Mm-hmm. So if they appear to be spending money caring about other people, well, it's obviously a trick.
Also,
it's obviously to just help yourself, because that's all we do here at Fox News. And one more thing about projection, Anna.
Yeah.
It's obviously for political reasons, like a political action committee. Why? Because if conservatives did it, they would never mean it in good conscience. They would actually be doing it for a secret purpose, to collect emails, etc., for their political purposes. So they project onto liberals. So these guys are not that political. They're like, I don't know, this seems bad. And it seems like we can defend ourselves because we're famous, but waitresses and cleaning people in attendance can't protect themselves. Maybe we should help them. But to the conservative mind, that makes no sense. It doesn't compute. There's no reason you would do anything that didn't help yourself and that was actually political secretly.
It's also interesting how, in the same statement, she goes on to criticize these women and their effort to raise money for legal defense. And then, at the same time, she'll go ahead and, because when she's talking about, like, oh, they knew, right? That gives the indication that she thinks that the Harvey Weinstein story is a serious one. Sexual harassment or sexual assault is serious. And if she genuinely thinks that, then great, I'm on her side, right? But then in the same statement, she goes on to belittle what Anita Hill went through. Because when liberals, or so-called liberals, carry out any type of abusive behavior, they should be criticized, right? If anyone's complicit in it, they should be criticized. But if a conservative Supreme Court Justice nominee is accused of sexual harassment, Anita Hill, boring, don't want to hear it.
In other words, what is she doing? She's politicizing it.
Exactly, and it's not meant to be political.
she just said, oh, yeah, they probably are doing this for political reasons. And then she goes and turns around and says, if it's a liberal, he actually did it. If it's conservative, it didn't happen. No way. You see how they're politicizing it.
Okay.
And by the way, just one more thing about the Anita Hill part. She's such a bad entertainer, if you will, and talk show host. And then Anita Hill.
That was great acting. Okay,
so fake.
That was only one part. I have to show you the second part of this video because this is actually the portion that infuriated me the most. Take a look.
Many of these women are the same women who have made millions of dollars flaunting their bodies for anyone who cares to watch. And at times, even watching these award shows, there's some talented people there, some beautiful folks, women and men. But at times, the dresses seem to be defying the laws of physics, right? The double-sided tape, how do they keep that up? For a while, it was almost as if Hollywood was creating a new category. And accepting on behalf of, for the deepest neckline is, well, I mean, you can wear whatever you want, but then don't be shocked when people, including men, stare. It's going to happen. Now, these same people, producers, writers, directors, agents, and actors, who have objectified women, and in some cases themselves, they're suddenly the moral conscience of the entire country, not just the entertainment industry. They're going to safeguard women across the country. Well, what are we going to believe? That they're looking like, what, pilgrims this award season? What are they going to be wearing? Oh, okay. Oh, that's actually a good look on her. Perhaps a Little House on the Prairie collection will be making its premiere at the Golden Globes. What are you wearing? Laura Ingalls Wilder? Well, look, don't hold your breath. You know who's going to do more to help women than anyone else this year, by the way? They won't admit it. But I'll tell you who. Yeah, there he is. Donald Trump.
Yeah, Donald Trump's going to help women. Yeah, he's going to help himself, just like you. So,
he's been accused by at least 16 women of sexual harassment.
Or sexual assault.
He was caught on tape, on audio, talking about grabbing women by the genitals, and how he doesn't even have to ask for their permission, you know? You can do whatever you want. Just grab them by the pussy.
When you're a star. Okay. So, first of all, who watches Laura Ingraham and doesn't think, my God, she seems incredibly mean? And when she was getting a Fox News show, there were reports out that the staffers panicked inside the building. They were like, nobody wanted to be assigned to it because she's so unbearable. Even at Fox News headquarters, they're like, whoa, not Laura Ingraham. And I know this is a little side note, and I shouldn't focus too much on it, but she's so bad at her job. Laura Ingraham, the House on the Prairie. What is that? What the hell was that, right?
Yeah.
And the dresses they showed at the end, they were almost. I know they're trying to appeal to males who grew up in 1955 because that's the Fox News audience. The show she took over, literally the demographic, the average age is 72 years old.
Yeah.
72. Okay, that means for every 42-year-old, there's a 102-year-old watching that show. So I get it. And they're like, those references to the prairie. The prairie, remember the prairie? The prairie was good. And these women with their plunging necklines. What is that about?
Show me some B-roll of that.
Yeah, show me.
That was such a classic Fox News segment, though, in that, everyone is so, self-congratulatory, and they feel so good about themselves because they're judging the way others are dressing and how it's too provocative, too promiscuous, too this, too that. But at the same time, they have constant B-roll in the background of the plunging necklines that they're being so judgmental about.
They'll do it again. So that's why I make predictions ahead of time. Sean Hannity, every single spring break, does a story about spring break, sometimes several times a year, and he'll show nonstop girls in bikinis go, tut, tut, tut. Can you believe these girls in bikinis? These liberals are outrageous. I'm going to show it to you for at least 20 minutes. He'll do it again this year. Starting around March, he'll go to his annual War on Spring Break where he shows you nothing but wall-to-wall girls in bikinis. Because those guys from 1955 were like, yeah, that's outrageous. Don't turn it, honey. Don't turn it. Okay, so now, last thing about this. Look, it's all fun because it's so over the top, so absurd, right? I'm judging what they're wearing, but the person who's going to help women is Donald Trump. I mean, how do you say it with a straight face? But there is something really, really serious in what she did there. And it was blaming women for dressing wrong. Now, the issue isn't whether guys look, okay? Yeah, we get it. Guys look, and the whole country looks. But that's not the issue. The issue that they raised $13 million for is sexual harassment and sexual assault, okay? That's not looking. And so what is she doing? She's victim blaming. Well, I mean, you're worried about sexual harassment and assault, but look at what you were wearing.
Yeah.
I mean, it is the oldest and dirtiest tactic to attack the victims.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, anyone who knows their rhetoric can immediately identify what she was trying to do there. And it's just hilarious because, again, in the same argument, in the same video, she, criticizes these women who are trying to help other women out, other people out, not just other women, other people out who have been victimized. She criticizes them by accusing them of being complicit, but then at the same time goes ahead and slut shames them for what they're wearing. Who cares what they're wearing? You sound a little jealous, to keep it real, okay? And then basically makes it seem as though, oh, well, if you've been sexually assaulted or harassed, well, you deserve it. You're wearing that plunging neckline. Just shut up. I can't stand her. All right, let's talk about other people.
All right, you go. I'm ready.
Fox News has provided wall-to-wall coverage in regard to the state of California legalizing marijuana for recreational use. In fact, they brought on their so-called A-team at Fox and Friends to speak to a doctor by the name of Mark Siegel to spread misinformation, myths, and lies about marijuana. Take a look.
What about brain health? When I was in high school, I remember people saying, if you do this, it's going to kill your brain cells. Is that a myth?
No, it actually does kill your brain cells, number one. It affects your heart and lungs, too. But in terms of that's the biggest problem. You do not perform as well on tests. You do not do as well in the workplace. It affects relationships. So long-term use, and we're talking about, once a week. We're not talking about somebody that uses it once or twice. Regular use of pot definitely impacts relationships.
You've probably seen that. You've seen that in your patients.
I see it all the time. And I see it in the office all the time.
I think we all have. We all have someone in mind that, gosh, there were a lot of people in my high school I thought were so smart, and they would do that and then go down the wrong path.
And of course, they use it with other things like alcohol. There's a huge increase of alcohol use among people that are also using pot.
Right, and you talk about that being a gateway drug, and you also talk about poisoning.
Gateway drug, per Bishop Allen, who talked to you yesterday, completely agree that gateway drug to other drugs.
Okay, a lot of things to talk about there. First of all, he discussed the notion that pot users lose brain cells, right? And I've heard that, we've all heard that myth, and I never really looked into it, right? I wanted to see if there was actually evidence to back it up. And there was one study decades ago that argued that marijuana does make you lose brain cells, kills brain cells. But that study was later proven to be there were issues with the methodology because there weren't the proper controls. They didn't do the study on humans. They did the study on monkeys. And later on, researchers did more studies and found, no, you don't lose brain cells. That is not the case. There have been some credible studies that indicate that if young people, while they're developing their brains, if they're smoking pot and they're doing so heavily, that could cause some issues in terms of memory and learning. So that's something that I believe is credible, right? But to say that it kills your brain cells and then also that it ruins relationships is ridiculous.
So where's your medical research? Because you're on the medical A team, so I know you must have some. To back up any of what you're saying, where's the study on how it ruins relationships? No, this is just a bunch of knuckleheads who just got together in a room. And they're like, oh, it sucks, doesn't it? Oh, yeah, well, totally. Yeah, what does it do? I don't know. It ruins relationships. Ruins circuses, too. I went to a circus, just ruined it. Right?
It actually improves the circus viewing experience.
Yeah, I mean, the female anchor there, she has some issues with somebody in her life who smokes too much pot. But it's like, oh, I saw some really smart people, and then, they went down the wrong path. I mean, it's like a comic book out of 1955 again. So, and then he went down the alley to meet with a dangerous guy who was selling him pot. Gateway drug, we already know what the gateway drug is. It's called OxyContin. And you're still having a conversation about gateway drugs? There actually is a ton of studies that marijuana is not a gateway drug, but in fact, opioids are. Legal prescription painkillers, which probably you advertise on your channel, are the actual gateway drug. And I have got to find out who's on Fox's medical B team. Because if that's the medical A team, I don't want to see what the B team looks like.
Also, one other thing. The argument that marijuana leads to more alcohol use is also completely false. In fact, the alcohol lobby has spent a considerable amount of money to squash any and all legalization efforts because they know that it's going to hurt their bottom line. People who want to smoke pot usually aren't interested in going out to go drinking. They're less likely to binge drink. And so the alcohol lobby is very aware of that, and they've been funding politicians left and right trying to get them to continue this prohibition on marijuana, at least on a federal level.
So I know that he's on the A team, but he got that wrong too, which is weird. But there's also not shown by any study. In fact, in states that have legalized marijuana, alcohol sales have dipped considerably. And so, no, they're not, generally speaking. Do some people smoke pot and drink at the same time? Sure. But generally speaking, no, on a macro level, drinking is going down now that marijuana is going up, which probably will reduce the number of DUIs. Look, it's not to say that marijuana has no side effects. Will it hurt your lungs? Yes. If you smoke marijuana, it will hurt your lungs. It has other potential issues, and it depends on who you are and how often you do it. It depends on your own makeup. So, but it should be science-based, not based on these kooks on Fox News trying to spread propaganda.
So I couldn't help myself. I grabbed one more video of this interaction that they had because it was hilarious. Let's take a look.
It actually increases among teens. It's like Colorado, 3 times as many teens ended up in the emergency room. They don't die from it, but they end up with rapid heart rate, paranoia, anxiety.
And you're against this. And overall, the other thing that is not on the card, but is edibles. Because they're unregulated, you don't know what you're eating. It comes in different types of food stuff sometimes.
Brian, that's where the poisonings are coming from. People are eating candy. They have it in drinks. Wow, this looks great. There's no stop sign on there. You know, at least when you're smoking it, you know how much you're getting. You do not know how much you're getting when you're eating it. It leads to emergency room visits. It leads to all kinds of paranoia, psychosis, very bad stuff.
Okay.
There's no stop sign, huh?
Okay. So the reason why I wanted to show you guys that portion of their exchange was because they're focusing on edibles, and there's like a tiny morsel of truth there, right? Yeah, edibles are incredibly powerful if you don't know what you're doing. If you eat too much, it could lead to paranoia. I know someone who decided to consume marijuana for the first time ever, had too much of it, and then ended up in an emergency room because it could make you like just very, very paranoid. Now, with that said, the argument that edibles are not regulated in these states that have legalized it for either medicinal use or recreational use is flat out wrong. So in California, for instance, let's say you want to buy a chocolate bar version of an edible, right? Chocolate bars used to come in, 180 milligrams, 100 whatever milligrams, 200 milligrams. Now each bar has to be 100 milligrams max, and each portion is 10 milligrams each. So they act as if like, you don't know what you're gonna get. It's this edible, and it's a big question mark. There are no stop signs. There's no nothing. So you're gonna consume it. You're gonna end up paranoid. You're gonna have marijuana poisoning.
Yeah, well, I love that. Was my favorite part of the segment. I mean, there's so many great parts, but the gigantic sign that said poisoning. Okay, look, you should be a little bit careful with edibles, especially if you don't know what you're doing. But yes, they do come in increments, so that it helps you to be careful. And in fact, you could argue that one increment is a stop sign. Be careful before you go to the second increment. So these folks are old. Let's just keep it real. And so the average age of the Fox News viewer overall is 69 years old. So
there's a ton of old people who get it, though. You know what I'm saying?
No, of course.
Like,
of course.
This is a
these are old
specific
conservatives.
type of yes.
Right. They're like, why don't those kids with the animals get off my lawn? Anyway, so they're partly referring to Maureen Dowd. This is my 2 favorite edible stories. So Maureen Dowd's a New York Times opinion columnist. You know, I got my issues with her, but she writes some fine stuff. Anyway, she's a bright person, but she goes to Colorado to try edibles, but she hasn't done it before. And so she goes to a hotel room and she eats too much because she didn't ask. You're a writer for the New York Times. Ask someone what is the increment I should eat, right? And she starts tripping like nobody's business. And then she writes an article the next day like, what is this?
Yeah.
Do people know what happens on animals? Yeah, most of us know. And then somehow we know. They take a little while to work, right?
Yes.
So they got one from a friend, and they text a friend, I don't get it. This isn't working. And the friend takes back, don't take more. Okay? He's like, I got this. He's like, still not working. The third text is from the emergency.
Oh, man. Poor thing. No, but like...
And he was totally fine. He was just tripping like crazy. And
no one's going to die from marijuana. But I know, maybe from personal experience, or maybe from a friend telling me, that, yeah, if you have too much, like... my friend, like, was hallucinating. So it's serious. There's no question about that. That's why I wanted to point to that little tiny morsel of truth. But to say that it's unregulated is just a flat-out lie. Okay? In fact, regulating it makes the situation better because you have more information about what you're consuming.
Yeah.
So.
And that's the thing. They take tiny kernels of truth. Like, do some people get paranoid on marijuana? Of course, right? And they blow it up to poisoning. Fox News 101.
All right, let's take a break. When we come back, the president playing golf, is it a good thing or a bad thing? Sarah Huckabee Sanders explains.
All right, post-game here in Studio B. It's a green screen magic of internet television. A lot of condom breaking stories. Any conversation that says, well, marriage is an interesting thing deserves a little bit of...
When the kid cries, perhaps that's that is an opportunity to do so. It's an opportunity to do some parenting.
Yeah, parenting is, you cry, you're gone. Oh my God.
I love that video.
Yeah, man, I got a great eye too. You're like, my mouth was open, she sneezed in my eye.
I used to have Donut Tower next to my desk.
Yeah, I'll dress up like a girl.
I sound confident now, Anna.
Yeah.
When we're off the air, I'm going to be like, how is this going to work?
When you get literally asked why 21 straight times.
Yeah.
And like at some point, you're fucking with me now, right?
So I dumped the kids off at her mom's, and I drove down to La Jolla for a day.
kids.
They're like, but Daddy, no.
Why? What do you mean, why? You asked me to look at you. You did it. You brought it up. You know you're doing it. Why? I don't know why. I was reading. It's lovely. Here's what's different. Like, it is a different feeling. Everybody says this, but it's 5:11 when we're shooting this. I can't wait to go home. Like that. I can't wait to see it.
What you guys do is allow us to be open and honest, and we don't have to worry about censorship, and we don't have to worry about sponsors telling us what we can and can't say. We're accountable by our audience and our audience only, and I absolutely love that. That's the best part about being a member. We love you guys.
Young Turks, Cenk and Anna with you guys. Read some tweets for you. Jess says, as Laura Ingraham spews her hatred and trash talking, she wears a cross around her neck.
I know, yes.
Hypocrite. I thought the same thing.
Yeah.
I'm a Christian. Let me judge everybody else.
Yeah.
Jesus did the opposite. Ishka Bibble says, Meryl Streep knew because she dissed Trump, so there. That's basically their logic. Chris then asks, how complicit was Ingram with all the sexual harassment at Fox News?
Oh, that was a great point, and I wish I would have thought of that.
I know, right? So, you know what, Chris? T-shirt. Because I wish we'd made that point on air. She was at Fox News. She knew, by her own definition, she knew. And what is it? It's projection.
Yes.
She must have known. Everybody was talking about Ailes, let alone O'Reilly. And what did Ingram do? Nothing. God, they're the worst. Mike says every sip of alcohol Fox News advertised on their channel kills brain cells. That's also true. Okay, and members of the day are Jacob Rogers and Dee Dee Zhang. So Jacob and Dee Dee, thank you guys. So we got Rebel Headquarters coming up for you next. And then, Brent Welder is going to be on. He's the candidate who is likely to win in Kansas. He's one of, I just read the member shout-outs. I'll read another one. Brent Welder, one of the original TYT members, and might soon be a U.S. congressman. So check that out at 8:05 p.m. Eastern. Rebel Headquarters starts.
And then we have a post game today, right?
Yes.
All right. I want to share a story from my yoga class yesterday. I know it sounds boring, but it's not. I got called out.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah,
okay, I can't.
So,
now all of a sudden I'm looking forward to it. Your dog is not downward enough. Okay, I don't know what it was, but I'm looking forward. All right, and Ben and I are doing old school tonight, so it's old school. So if you guys are members, check that out. tytnetwork.com/join to become a member. All right, what's next, Anna?
Okay. Donald Trump loves to play golf. He was very critical about Obama when he was playing golf during his presidency, but during the Trump presidency, it seems as though golfing is a permanent fixture of his strategy. In fact, according to reports, he has spent at least 91 days of his presidency at golf courses.
Amazing.
And has been confirmed golfing at least 35 times. Now, the reason why there's a distinction there is because the White House is very tight-lipped about the fact that he golfs so much, so they won't confirm each and every time he does it. In fact, there was that story from last week where they literally got a big truck, white box truck, to block reporters' view of him golfing. Now the question is, all right, well, he said that Obama was super lazy for constantly golfing. He's already beaten Obama in the amount of time he's golfed in his first year of his presidency. So what does that mean? Does that mean he's being lazy? Sarah Huckabee Sanders thinks no, he's actually being incredibly productive. Take a look.
Can you tell me the biggest single thing the president has accomplished for the American people during his time on the golf course?
I think it would certainly be developing deeper and better relationships with members of Congress, in which those relationships have helped push forward the president's agenda, specifically when it comes to helping get the tax reform and tax cuts passed. A lot of that, I think, and the success of that came from the strong relationships that the president has, and he's played golf with a number of senators and used that time certainly to accomplish that.
Well, if so much has been accomplished during this time, there seems to be a bit of a transparency issue with his time on the golf course. We don't always get confirmation of what he's doing there, despite a lot of requests. There was this incident with the box truck. Why does it seem as though the White House is a little has some kind of issue about his time on the course?
I think it's the press that has an issue at this time on the course. The president's extremely proud of the accomplishments we had during 2017.
Okay, so she thinks that, hey, he's holding very important meetings with members of Congress on the golf course, and they're having discussions about legislation and what they need to do to pass that legislation. I'm sure, he really gets into the weeds of that legislation on the golf course.
Because, having a meeting in Washington where all the congressmen are, that would be unproductive. Having meetings either with a lot of congressmen at once, unproductive, or, hey, 4 at a time, for 15 minutes each or half an hour each. That would be unproductive. What would be productive is spending an entire day with just 3 other people on a golf course over and over and over again. And some of those people are not, most of them are not congressmen. By the way, a lot of them are friends, which is understandable because he's lazy and only wants to do his golf. And remember, they have to give him information in tweet size because, like, when he's in the White House, it's not working anyway. There was a report that he's watching 4 to 8 hours of television, mainly Fox, and just kvetching all day in his bathrobe. So he figures, what the hell? I'm not working at the White House anyway. I might as well go have fun and play golf. But a lot of the people on the golf course are also his funders, his donors. So he's out there raising money for Republicans, raising money for himself, and doing the corrupt thing that he claimed that he was against. But even if you don't get into that serious stuff about the corruption and the donors, the tweets that he had against Obama golfing were
vicious.
Were so over the top.
They were over the top. They were vicious, and for some reason, it was totally okay to pass judgment on Obama when he was golfing. But when he's doing it, it's not. That's the only reason why this is a story in my eyes. Like, I don't care that Trump golfs. In fact, I would prefer that he golfs 356 days out of the week, 365 days out of the week,
out of the year.
Out of the year. You guys know what I mean. Every day. I want him golfing every day. I want him away from Twitter. I want him away from his phone. I want him away from Congress. I want him away. Go away. Go golf, right? But it's just this, like, weird, like, self-important, I'm above everyone and everything attitude that he has that annoys the crap out of me, because he has no problem passing judgment while simultaneously doing the exact same thing.
So just think about it in any other context, because I haven't gone golfing 91 times in my life, and I run a talk show here, obviously not anywhere near as important as being president, not 1% of 1% of 1%, right? And I care deeply. I work on the weekends. I work nonstop, right? This guy doesn't care at all. He has the most important job in the world. 91 days. Think about forget it. Take the lower number. Imagine if someone had done 35 days of something else, like going to a movie. Could you imagine if the president had gone to a movie 35 times in 1 year? 35 movies. You'd be like, oh my God, Jesus, what's with the movies, right? And imagine if the movie took all day, okay? So you'd be like, what? That's imagine if he went to 91 movies. You'd be like, what are you doing? Go work.
You just put that in a context that blew my mind, right? Because I want everyone to just think about your life, okay? Think about your life for a second. You're not president. You're just living your life. Have you ever, in any given year, gone to the movies 91 times? 91 times? No way! I don't think I've gone to the movies 91 times in my entire life, right? And this homeboy is at a golf course 91 days out of the first year of his presidency. That is absurd! That is absurd!
It's literally a quarter of the days of the year. That's amazing! That's amazing! So he just doesn't care to do the job. To him, it's an exercise in ego and
making money. He's making money. I mean, he's slanging his businesses left and right? I mean, no one gives a crap about the conflicts of interest. No one cares about the fact that he's, slanging those memberships to Mar-a-Lago and all that, And part of the reason why he's constantly at Mar-a-Lago or one of his resorts and why he's constantly publicizing that is because it drives up memberships. It's promotional. Ivanka Trump running around in the clothing that she sells. I mean, come on. It's a big business strategy for them and nothing more.
Look, I play pitch and putt, right? The 3-part, 9-hole thing. I like it. It's fun. And a lot of Americans love golf. But the elites and their obsession with golf drives me crazy. So you remember George Bush with the, okay, it's really serious. We got to go fight the terrorists. Now watch this tee shot, right? But to Bush's credit, he stopped playing golf during the Iraq War because he at least understood the optics look so bad, right?
I can't believe there's someone that makes Bush look good.
I know, right?
Amazing.
But I thought Obama played too much golf. It's nonsense with the golf, right? So, but now Trump has blown him out of the water. But, like, if you take it and apply anything else, I was thinking, okay, we talked about the movies. The movies take a couple of hours, golf takes all day. Imagine if they had a different habit. Like, if the president bowled all day long. You'd be like, what? The president spent 91 days all day long bowling. What? But like he spends 91 days all day golfing, and everybody's like, well, not everybody, but at least half the country's like, well, yeah, of course, he's got to relax. He's got to clear his mind a little bit, and just go and spend the whole day golfing instead of working. I mean, a quarter of the days, most important job in the world.
None of us have ever spent 91 days having fun out of any given week, unless we were kids, maybe. But that's
retired.
Yeah.
But he acts like he's retired. He's an old guy who watches Fox News all day long and does nonstop golfing and kvetches to his friends. And goes down to Florida all the time. He's retired, except he has the most important job in the world. Okay.
It's all very depressing.
Okay, next.
Let's move on to the topic of fake news.
Yes, I love this story.
Since the 2016 election, we've heard the phrase fake news over and over again, especially from the Trump administration. Well, researchers from Dartmouth College, Princeton University, and other universities got together and decided to study the topic and see, A, who is the number one consumer of fake news, and B, how prevalent is fake news? Now, interestingly enough, the researchers found that fake news, based on their research, is not as widespread as people would have you believe. However, there are some clear signs of who is more likely to consume and believe fake news. So let's get to the numbers.
Okay, I wonder who.
So on 289 such sites, about 80% of bogus articles supported Trump. In fact, the far right, approximately 10% of the sample, made up roughly 65% of visits to sites that published more than 2 stories that were false. Trump supporters were 3 times more likely to read such sites as supporters of Hillary Clinton. So, to be fair, both Hillary Clinton supporters and Trump supporters were found to follow or believe fake news. However, there's a larger percentage of Trump supporters who came across that content and believed it. Now, Trump supporters read on average 5 false stories over the course of 5 weeks. Clinton supporters read just about 1 false story over 5 weeks.
So one of the other pieces of good news is it's not that many. They read a lot more true stories than they read false stories, even for conservatives. 5 false stories in 5 weeks is obviously 1 a week. It's not that much, although it is still depressingly large in my opinion. Okay, but to me the most important part of this is it's not equal. We told you it wasn't equal. And this whole both sides do it stuff is crap. No. There's 2 different phenomena going on here. First of all, conservatives are more gullible. They are by their nature. They believe in leaders and authority figures. And so why did big business in this country decide to partner up with more religious people? Because they thought they're easier to trick. They think that guys walk on water and there's virgin births. They'll believe anything. And we just have to get their leaders to tell them, and they'll believe what the leaders say. So what do conservatives believe? They believe that Obama was not born in the U.S., that he was born in Kenya. Preposterous, made up. But huge percentages of them believe, more than half believe that. More than half believe that Obama's a Muslim. They believe that Trump is right, that global warming is not real, climate change isn't real, it's not man-made, and that it was a Chinese hoax. I mean, they'll believe anything. So is it surprising that the conservatives fall for fake news more than liberals? It's not remotely surprising.
So I'm going to push back on that a little bit because, look, there might be some scientific research comparing, how gullible conservatives are versus liberals. I haven't seen it, but if it exists, let me know. But one thing that I do want to say is I think that liberals can also be gullible if it's confirmation bias. So, for instance, during this past election, there was definitely a huge portion of the Democratic Party that hated Hillary, despised her, and the confirmation bias that they believed, right, was that she had like a terminal illness that she was trying to hide. Like, how absurd was that? It was insanely absurd. It drove me crazy, but there was a portion of liberals who certainly believed that.
So look, Anna, I'm not saying that it doesn't exist, and this study shows that it exists. So, yes, that's true. And by the way, a lot of people just got mad at you for saying that because they still believe it to this day.
Well, good.
By the way,
I don't care. If you believe that, you're insane. And if you dislike me for saying that, go ahead and dislike me. I don't care.
So first of all, if you're a progressive who believe that Hillary Clinton has some sort of brain disease, I got bad news for you. I just read about it this morning. I went back and looked at how that originated. It originated from the worst guys on the alt-right. They made it up. They bragged about how they made it up, and then they laughed their ass off as the right wing and the left wing believed it. Okay, and the reality is, there was somebody with brain damage in the debates, and it wasn't Hillary Clinton, and she's still fine today. Why didn't she die? Why isn't she falling down every day? Anyway, I don't want to get back into that. So yes, liberals believe things that are wrong sometimes. There's a guy we covered yesterday in the woods, and this raw water movement. There's the antibiotic stuff and and viruses.
Anti-vaccine. There's all sorts of
anti-vaccine.
things.
I'm sorry. So yes, of course, and we're all humans, and yes, some percentage of humans are gullible. And by the way, that doesn't mean that you're wrong on everything. But there are certain things that are not factual. Okay. But that's why I love this study, because it's not equal. It's not equal. They are more gullible. They believe in things that are wrong more often, way more often. But Anna, there's a second part.
Yes, and I think the second part is way more relevant. Go ahead.
Okay, the second part is that the Republicans who write about this stuff are more willing to write lies. They do the fake websites way more often than liberals do. Because a person who's covering the news from a liberal perspective actually cares about facts and cares about reality. So they're way less likely to write. There's so many more conservative sites that print fake news after fake news after fake news. So if you're a conservative, you're way more likely to run into fake news because your leaders are goddamn liars.
And the research bears that out, okay? So again, based on this study, they found that 80% of the bogus articles supported Trump. So yes, if you are comparing the amount of the content, right, doing just a quantitative analysis, the majority of the fake news is supportive of Trump, supportive of the conservative perspective. And so,
they have no morals. They don't care about truth or lies. All they care about is winning by any means necessary. To them, a lie is just a thing that they had to do to trick you because you're stupid, and they think their voters are stupid, and most of the time their voters prove them right. So that's just the reality of it, and that's why I think this study is so important. All right, guys, we got to go. I got Rebel Headquarters next. Don't miss that. Progressives fighting back all across the country. Bye-bye.
watching Survivor Series where the champions actually clash with one another. This pay-per-view title continues to make even less sense than before. How many times Bobby Roode spun around during his entrance? It's amazing that he hasn't lost his balance or got rid of dizzy by now. Like we usually are in almost every pay-per-view prior to this, once again making this pay-per-view extravaganza completely pointless. I'm going to be completely honest here. Dolph Ziggler's placement into this United States Championship match was random and out of the blue. Prior to the announcement 4 weeks ago, when did Dolph ever go after Baron Corbin at the U.S. title? Exactly. Never did. Previously on WWE. This has to be the 50th time I've seen this happen in 2017. Well, ever since entering the main roster, Bobby Roode still has been nothing but an entrance, so Dolph wasn't wrong once again in referring to him as an entrance. Taking your time on one opponent and then triple their match while another opponent sits back and relaxes on the outside? No, that's a very bad strategy. Walking, Fox and lots of walking. Byron Saxton writing letters to Santa. Why is that a sin? Aside from that ridiculous idea of adults writing letters to Santa Claus? Because it's probably true. Did any wrestler ever apologize for accidentally hitting the wrong target with a clothesline? They shouldn't even be in the ring. So of course Baron wouldn't take it back, Corey. Cover! When you're cheerleading, Corey, see that additional camera over there to the right? Sure, WWE's trying to test out more virtual reality stuff, but that stuff could easily get knocked down and destroyed. That or the wrestlers could trip over them. Hell, one day a wrestler could suffer a career-ending injury all just because he tripped on a camera. Let me ask this. How would a backbreaker on the floor be any more devastating than in the ring, especially considering Baron's opponents would still end up landing on his knee and on the floor? I'm honestly surprised that Bobby didn't bring up that pinfall, especially since he didn't even get hit with the interface at all. Also, upon watching the following edition of SmackDown, this title victory is just as random and forgettable as Dolph's involvement in this match. How does that show look too big for you in any way? You're stretching it out, and when you're doing that, it looks about as big as your eyes. Let's look at what's best for SmackDown. In other words, best for business, which means, in other words, Daniel Bryan loves being the authority despite constantly poking fun at the former authority. Why? Dolph Ziggler didn't belong in that match. He didn't earn it.
Welcome to Rebel Headquarters. Look, I told you at the beginning of the Young Turks this week and this year that we all got to fight together. I'm just going to keep pounding that message home, and soon at the top of Rebel Headquarters, we'll start to give you guys notices on different efforts, progressive efforts throughout the country. What protests are being held, what rallies are being held, what demonstrations are being held, etc. Because I want you guys to get out there and get in the fight any way that you can. And so we've got that coming. We gave you guys the email for Rebel Headquarters so you guys could start sending in suggestions for folks, and we took you seriously. And one of the people who to again tell you guys, just make sure that you're part of the rescue of this country, and that's what it is. We're going to rescue this country, and by the time we're done, and 2020 is not the end. In the years after 2020, when we actually get amendments passed, when we get laws passed, and we win on these issues, I guarantee you, A, that nothing's going to feel better, and B, that you're going to feel great that you start getting involved today, and not later when the bandwagon is started. Okay, so having said all that, thank you guys for suggesting our next guest, who we would not have known about otherwise. So now joining us at Rebel Headquarters is James Elam. He's running for local office in West Virginia. Hey James, how you doing, brother?
Hi Jake, how are you, man?
Good. So we've had mostly national candidates, but you're a local candidate. So first, before we get into what office you're running for, where'd you grow up?
Well, I was born outside of Chicago in Evanston, Illinois. Both of my parents were sailors in the U.S. Navy, and we did some moving around. I spent a lot of time growing up outside of Memphis and Collierville, Tennessee. And then about 2007, I lived outside of Madison, Wisconsin. And in 2012, I finally came to Charleston, West Virginia, and I've been here ever since. I absolutely love it.
All right, well, bless your heart for loving Charleston, West Virginia. So, what did you do in Charleston as a profession?
Well, in Charleston, actually outside of Charleston, I lived outside of Clarksburg for about a year, where I spent after college serving as a corrections officer in the State Division of Corrections, which was actually the main reason why I decided to run as a Democrat, because I realized in West Virginia we were clogging our jails and prisons with nonviolent offenders, specifically nonviolent drug offenders, and a lot of which relating to cannabis, which I think should be legalized throughout the entire country. So I really want to commend those folks over in California for getting recreational marijuana.
Okay, so now West Virginia is a little bit different, certainly than California and arguably the rest of the country.
Definitely.
So even earlier today on the Young Turks, we did the story about how black people are arrested at 3.7 times the rate of white people for marijuana. But West Virginia doesn't have a lot of black folks. So in the prisons, was it poor white people who were largely being arrested for marijuana?
Typically, and also not even just marijuana arrests. As you know, West Virginia has the highest rate of opioid drug overdose deaths in the country due to drug overdose, and cities like Huntington are especially hit hard from heroin and other drugs. So that's another reason why, as a former correctional officer, my platform discusses releasing nonviolent drug offenders from incarceration so they can receive better rehabilitative care, and we can save the taxpayers money. And as a former officer myself, I've supervised inmates personally, and as you've seen recently, our governor has just declared a state of emergency because we don't have enough officers to even work in our jails or in our prisons. So they're about to send in the National Guard, and we're paying officers in the prison $24,000 a year. I mean, it's criminal.
So, what was the salary you made as a corrections officer?
My fiscal year, I honed in around $22,000. That was working 60 hours a week, 20 hours of overtime every week. And the only thing I got from Governor Justice, aside from him totally screwing the Democratic Party in West Virginia, was he sent all these officers a letter basically saying, I know you're overworked, you work long hours and for low pay, but, thanks for what you're doing. And, I'd like to see the governor down there in one of these understaffed jails or prisons and watching 48 inmates at a time and risking your life to keep people safe. And, that's why I started to run. And I had a gigantic target on my back because I'm also the youngest openly gay candidate for the House of Delegates.
Yeah, so James, I want to stay on the salary for a second because we live in different worlds, and you might not have a sense of what's happening on the coast and the elites definitely do not have a sense of what's happening to you or anybody in West Virginia, because the idea of working 60-hour week and getting only $22,000 salary
is criminal. Yeah,
it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable, and the guys on TV in New York and DC, they have no idea. They have no idea at all. So if you're in office,
here, that's all it was about right here.
And they pretend that they care about you guys. You guys are officers, right? And then do they care about you? $22,000 a year. So, okay, then if you're in office, what would you do about that?
Well, that's why West Virginia is struggling. If you look, we have 500 vacancies for correctional officer positions statewide. And again, the reason for that is the tri-state area. There's no reason for an officer to want to stay in our jails and prisons if they can go to Maryland and make a couple extra $1,000, or hell, even in West Virginia they could go to the federal system and make upwards of $45,000 a year. So that's typically what happens. They either leave the state or they go to the federal system.
Right. So how can you fix it?
Well, that's another reason why I've always suggested releasing the nonviolent offenders at an earlier time. One, that's going to put our officers in a safer position. It's going to free up tax dollars. And again, that's a whole other reason. These issues all kind of are interconnected. That's why I'm a believer in the legalization of marijuana, because if you look at the revenue that could be generated from that, we could pump a lot of that money back into operating our jails and prisons and our infrastructure, our education. We could really put that money back into the entire state in general.
So the links to help James is in the description box below if you're watching on YouTube, or right there if you're watching live, and then in the comment section on Facebook. So James, you're running for House of Delegates in West Virginia. So and as you mentioned, you're an openly gay candidate. Now, conventional wisdom on TV is you have no chance because of that in West Virginia. So what say you about that?
Well, I would disagree. I mean, Jake, as well as you know, it's 2018, and the tide has changed. And the LGBT community in our state, I'm going to keep fighting for them simply because we don't have any language on our hate crimes law that protects these people. And as a former officer myself, it was my job to keep people safe. You can be legally fired from your job or kicked out of your housing if you're openly gay. If the city you live in doesn't have a non-discrimination policy, we don't have any statewide protection that protects you in your employment and housing. And that's the same reason I've supported the Employment Housing Non-Discrimination Act. And every time the Democrats try to push it through the House or through the state legislature and the Senate, it always gets torn down because we have people on the Republican side that would rather waste time trying to sponsor religious freedom bills, which are basically just a license to discriminate, or they're trying to pass bathroom bills and totally, assault the transgender community. So, to anyone who's not going to vote for me because of my sexuality, I feel very bad for you. I've already lost your vote, and I'm sorry for that. But I know across the country that there's a lot of people that support the LGBT community, and I am proud to say here on your network that I am one of those people.
Right, and look, we had a trans individual win in Virginia, a southern state.
Danica Rowe.
Mm-hmm. That's right. We had a lesbian mom, a 26-year-old woman who no one gave a chance to win in the middle of Oklahoma. Right? You know why? Because people. I think, James, you're exactly right. People don't care about that anymore. You know what they care about? That you're going to help them get a better wage. You're going to help them get health care. You're going to fight for them, right? And you're not going to fight for the elites. You're not going to fight for the donors. You're going to fight for them.
If you look on my Act Blue account, the smallest donation is $3. It's $3. I'm not asking for big money. I don't come from money. I don't have a fancy last name. If that's what you're looking for, you might as well not vote for me. Because, like I said, as a corrections officer, I made not even $23,000 a year. And, I don't believe that money should have any type of influence in politics. If anyway, the people are better represented by people who understand that sometimes it's paycheck to paycheck. And we got people in West Virginia that are working 2-3 jobs, barely putting food on the table. We're one of the most depressed states in the country. We have an addiction to opiates and prescription drugs that is uncanny to the rest of the nation. We have real issues that we need to be tackling here. And I feel like a lot of these people are just playing games with people's politics and indirectly playing games with the lives of everyday West Virginians.
I saw in your bio that you wanted to be a Methodist pastor at one point. And as I hear you preach it, I can see why. And don't sell your name short. There was a great Broncos kicker with your last name. Yes.
Well, they told me I couldn't do that, but here I am trying to spread the message that if you believe in a God, remember what it says in 1 John 4:8. If you don't know love, you don't know God, because God is love. And I think we're living in a current political time that is dynamic and unique. I have friends like Paula Swearigan who are trying to take back this state, and friends in the southern part of the state like Richard Ojeda, who's running for Congress, who's great on veterans issues and a giant friend to my community. So you know what? There's progressives in this state that are tired of it. And Donald Trump came out the other day and said that West Virginia was doing fantastically well. Well, I would argue, how are we doing fantastically well? He rallied this state by saying he was going to put miners back to work, and we're closing the mines down. If anything, if you want to ask about how we're going to put these guys back to work, we've already blown the tops of these mountains off. We should be farming cannabis on top of them and selling it in a dispensary, taxing it like alcohol. I mean, West Virginia has some of the best lands to be doing this at. I just don't see why we're not already doing it.
Yeah, I mentioned the Broncos earlier, giving Mile High a different meaning. But West Virginia's got a lot of good land. No reason not to put it to work. Yeah, let's get some jobs in there. Let's get some money in West Virginia.
Country roads.
That's right. That's right. All right, James Elam, running for local office in West Virginia. Check out the links below. And if you're in his neck of the woods or in his holler, go out and give him a holler. Volunteer, donate, do whatever you need to do.
Well, James, if I could just say one more thing, if we're almost done here, I just want to say my dad's a huge fan of the show, and I know he's tuning in outside of Janesville in Paul Ryan's district, and I just want to say go Randy Bryce for sure, and I want to say hello to my dad, and thank you for tuning in. So
yep, Iron Stash is going to beat Paul Ryan, and that's going to be fantastic as well. He just became a Justice Democrat, so so that's great news all around. All right, James, go get him. Looking forward to the results on election night.
Thank you.
All right, great. I love it. Okay, when we come back, Brent Welder, one of the original Young Turks members, volunteer for Wolfpack, and now the leading candidate in Kansas's 3rd district. It's an amazing story of how you too can be a congressman, and there's so many twists to that story. Wait till you hear about his past for the Teamsters and hot dogs when we return. We've got another great interview for you guys. Let's get to it. Brent Welder is running in Kansas' 3rd District. He's a very progressive Democrat. He's a just Democrat, in fact, uncorrupted, not going to take big corporate PAC money. Well, you think, well, Kansas, he's likely to lose, isn't it? Wrong! Brent joins us now. He is, in my opinion, the favorite in the race, and there's good factual reason for that. It's one of only 5 Republican-held congressional districts in the country that was won by Bernie Sanders in the primary and Hillary Clinton in the general election. Brent, welcome to the Young Turks. Rebel Headquarters / TYT Network.
Hey, thank you so much, and thank you to the TYT Army for everything that everyone's been doing for a decade now. It's so important that we fight back against these giant corporations. You guys, your show was one of the very first to start doing this. I've seen throughout my career as a grassroots organizer how hard it is to get started and get that momentum going, but the momentum is going strong and the people are really ready for change, real change that's going to fight back against these giant corporations, and I'm so excited to be here with you tonight.
So, Brent, people tell me that you were one of the first Young Turks members. But I've never actually talked to you, so I wanted to talk to you and get it straight from you. So, when did you start watching the show, and when did you become a member?
I started watching 10 years ago. You've never talked to me, but you have one time talked about me because, you were reading off on every show a few of the first members. And I remember being really excited several years ago when you got my name, and my little daughter, who's now 4, was really excited too that I was being talked about on TV. But I've been watching for 10 years, an active viewer, but also more importantly, getting out there with causes like Wolfpack, where I was really active working with Mike Mineta and a great team there to get our constitutional amendment to get money out of politics. When I was on the Democratic National Platform Committee last year, nominated by Bernie Sanders, I actually was the one who drafted and fought for an amendment in the Democratic National Party platform to say that we needed to get corporate money out of politics. That was inspired by you. It was inspired by the TYT Nation, and it was inspired by Wolfpack. Continued as a grassroots organizer, ended up going to law school to take on the giant corporations directly, and now I'm ready to take that fight to Washington with the help of TYT Army. And we're running a grassroots campaign here. It's extremely important. We're trying to raise $50,000 from the TYT Army to fully fund our field program. We're going to have precinct captains for every precinct. We're going to have volunteers, thousands of them across the district, and we need the funds to do it. So people can go to brentwelder.com/TYT. Help us with that effort. We're already 10% of the way there, and we're running the biggest grassroots campaign of any congressional district in the country. I've been an organizer for many years. I've been part of some of the biggest grassroots organizations, and that's what we're doing here in this congressional race.
Well, so a couple of things about that. First, they put up the links there, and we'll put the links down below in the description box and in the comment section on Facebook as well. But Brent's the only one with brentwelder.com/TYT in the donation, which I love. So go use that one. We'll put that at the top. And look, Brent, of course I love your story. It would be great if a Young Turks viewer and Wolfpack volunteer became a U.S. congressman. That's just amazing. And your energy and your enthusiasm is obvious. So you're almost the prototypical strong progressive candidate. So, and in such a winnable district with such a bad incumbent. So just for a second, let's talk about the incumbent, then I want to talk about hot dogs and Teamsters.
Sounds great.
So tell us about Kevin Yoder. What's so wrong with him?
Kevin Yoder is so extreme. He votes with Donald Trump 97% of the time, but the only reason it's not actually a higher percentage is because he's taken some votes more extreme than Donald Trump, which actually lowered his Trump percentage a little bit. He voted, of course, for this tax bill. He voted several times to repeal Obamacare. He is an immoral, unethical lemming of Donald Trump. He takes his orders directly from the Koch brothers here in Kansas, directly from Wall Street, and is just way too extreme to be representing anyone, let alone this district that was won by Bernie Sanders in the primary and Hillary Clinton in the general. And, probably one of the sickest things, one of the most immoral things that he does, he has taken more money than any member of Congress from the loan sharks, the payday loan industry. He's taken $250,000 from them. That's who he answers to. He takes his orders from the Koch brothers, from the loan sharks, from the worst people in this country. but the people are fighting back. As I've said, Bernie Sanders won the district. Hillary Clinton won the district. We have hundreds of volunteers. We need to fund this field program. I hope people will go to brentwelder.com/TYT. It's been amazing. I've been getting small dollar contributions for now a month and a half, ever since I was endorsed by Justice Democrats. And it really warms my heart seeing, I see a donation come in from a farmer in Kansas, from a bus driver in New York, $27, from a construction worker in Montana, one after another, and it has added up, and it's really helping us win this race. I think a lot of people do consider us the front runners, but we're working hard for every single vote. And the way to do it is to run a strong grassroots campaign and also have the funding to be able to do that and run our strong campaign.
Yeah, Brent has raised, I saw the numbers, almost as much as Yoder raised from the payday loan industry. But all small donors. And so, and think about that. All the small donors, hundreds, thousands of people that gave money to Brent versus just a couple of corporate executives at payday lenders that give to Yoder. And so that's the difference between people power and working for corporate donors. So I promised people Teamsters and hot dogs. So you didn't just organize for Wolfpack. You organized over 1 million people for the Teamsters. So tell us about that. What was that about?
That's right. Well, before I went to law school, I was the national field director and national campaigns coordinator for the Teamsters Union. We had 1.3 million workers across the country that I was organizing. And when I first got on the job, this was back when Barack Obama was running for president for the first time, we polled our membership, and John McCain was beating Barack Obama among our members. But we got to work with a grassroots campaign. I hired 750 Teamsters off their normal day job, and we sent them into every targeted workplace in America to talk to their fellow workers about raising wages, about health care for all, about fighting back against the giant corporations, bread and butter economic issues. And come a week before the election, we repolled our members, and Obama was beating McCain 75 to 25 among our members. These are blue collar workers. Now, unfortunately, a lot of them last election voted for Donald Trump because they believed him that he was a populist, that he was going to fight for workers. But people are really starting to see that that's not the case. The people in our district are sick and tired of Donald Trump. They're sick and tired of Kevin Yoder voting with Donald Trump every time. After I went to law school, I became a labor lawyer representing union workers, representing working people. My wife is also a union side labor lawyer, Christy. Just a beautiful, amazing, intelligent woman that is just at my side every step of the way. And the people of Kansas's 3rd District are ready for someone that is willing to speak truth to power, take on the giant corporations, just like I've been doing in the courtroom, just like I've been doing as a grassroots organizer. And now I'm taking this to Washington, and we're going to get them. And I can do it with the help of the TYT Army. brentwelder.com/TYT. Let's get this field program funded because we're going to run the biggest field program of any congressional race in America. And I have actually done that before. I worked with Patrick Murphy, who was the first Iraq war veteran elected to Congress. It was a 60% registered Republican district. He was running against a Republican incumbent. We put together the biggest grassroots organization of any congressional district in the country. We had 2,500 people knocking doors on election day, and we won the election by 2,500 votes, 1 vote per volunteer. We're going to do it again.
Brian, let me tell you something. You're going to Congress.
Hey.
And I'm not kidding. So I started the year on the Young Turks by saying, I don't know what's going to happen in 2018. It's going to be a wild ride. I now know one thing. You're looking at the next congressman from Kansas' 3rd District. Because that energy, that enthusiasm, that ability to organize people and to get grassroots voters out there, I've seen it 1,000 times. It works every time. So you're going to win. So let's end on a fun note. Look, on the policy, I know you're right. End the corruption, money out of politics, $15 minimum wage, Medicare for all, college for all. I've seen your records. But in your bio, as I was looking through all that, I did see one other thing. That when you were a kid, you guys grew up eating hot dogs.
Well, it was. I mean, we didn't have a lot of means when I was a kid, and I grew up in a rural area. There's a lot of rural poverty out there that kind of, gets forgotten sometimes. And frankly, I mean, everyone in poverty in this country seems to be getting forgotten. And yes, when I was young, we had hot dogs for essentially every meal because that's all we could afford. And there's too many people in this country that are struggling like this right now. But we're coming to help them. We're going to fix it. People are ready. They're fired up. They understand what's going on. With your guys' help, we are going to get this done. My campaign's been endorsed by Justice Democrats, Our Revolution Kansas City, Dr. Cornel West, Patrick Murphy, Jason Kander, a national voting rights leader, and my wife's personal favorite. On New Year's Eve, just the other day, actress Shailene Woodley actually tweeted out support for me, who is an amazing progressive activist as well, was really involved in DAPL. But the most important endorsement is the TYT Army is for progressives across the country. Please go to brentwelder.com/TYT. We can do this together. We are going to go to Congress. We're going to win this race. People are ready for it. We're going to go there and we're going to speak truth to power just like we're doing here today, and we're going to get it done.
Brent also knows how to push a message. I love it. And I'm right there with you, brother. I remember the days when I had the 4 staples of food: hot dogs, cereal, mac and cheese, and Hot Pockets. But from there to the Congress, that's where Brent Welder is going. Go help him, especially if you're in his district. Make sure that you volunteer and you're part of that grassroots army. Brent, thank you so much for joining us at Rebel Headquarters. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for all of this together, and the people are so powerful, and we're gonna get it done. BrentWelder.com/TYT. Thank you, Cenk, for everything you're doing, and hopefully I get to talk to you again soon.
Sounds great. All right, we will indeed. All right. They're gonna win. He's gonna win. It's gonna be amazing. All right, guys, we love you. We'll see you in the post game if you remember in just a minute.